Mr. Phillips, you're here, I believe, pursuant to a notice of deposition that was served on your counsel, which we've marked as Exhibit 1 for the record.
Right here?
Yes. I'm sure that you have talked with your counsel. Don't tell me what you've talked about, obviously, but you understand what's going to happen here today. So I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and you're going to answer them. I may show you some documents from time to time. The court reporter is taking down everything that both you and I say. Mm-hmm. There are a couple of things that are important in that respect. One is that the court reporter cannot take down gestures or nods of the head. If you say something like, uh-huh, I may understand that verbally, but in a transcript that doesn't look like anything. So if you intend to tell us something, you need to do it using words. Second is that fairly often in ordinary communication, conversation, people talk over each other. You may think I'm going where I'm going with a question. I may think I know where you're going with an answer. You cut me off, I cut you off. That's the way people talk. We can't do that here today. But most importantly, if say you were halfway through an answer and you took a breath and I thought you were done, so I went on to the next question, but you're not done with your answer, stop me, because you have every right to finish your answer, and in fact we'd expect you to in order to answer the question fully and truthfully, okay?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
All right, Mr. Phillips, Exhibit 6.
Is it right here?
Yes. Is an email that was produced by AEG Live in this litigation, first from Mr. Morey to you, and then you responding to Mr. Morey. You see that?
I'm reading it right now.
My question was simply, is this an email that you got from Mr. Morey and an email you responded to Mr. Morey?
Based on reading the headers of the emails, yes.
Right, okay. And it was produced by AEG Live. You see the production stamp down at the bottom, right?
Correct.
All right. There's some language up at the top. It talks about that you wrote the top of this, correct?
That is correct.
And you wrote MJ was not speaking to Dr. Tomei because of this stupid auction he set up that MJ never agreed to?
Correct.
Is that what you were just telling us about the Julian's auction?
That is correct.
All right. And then there's language about the day they left for London. Is that the press conference for the This Is It tour?
That is correct.
When you wrote the fact that the press conference even happened as a miracle, you see that?
I see that.
What did you mean by that?
To the best of my knowledge at the time, the fact that Dr. Tomei and Michael were not in constant contact with each other, and we were dealing with Dr. Tomei on the logistics of the press conference, and that's what I meant. I had to rely on Dr. Tomei to bring Michael and for Michael's participation in the press conference. And if they were estranged, I had no one to deal with.
Was there a problem, Mr. Phillips, with Mr. Jackson's appearance at the press conference that day?
Are you talking about when he went to the microphone and was photographed?
Well, I was thinking actually really the hours before going to the microphone and being photographed. Something unusual happened?
We were late.
Why?
To the best of my knowledge, based on statements made to me by Dr. Tomei, Michael was scared of the reception he was going to get because he hadn't been in the public eye in so long, and that he might be hungover.
Hungover?
Hungover.
That's what Dr. Tomei told you?
Correct.
You didn't see that yourself?
At one point during the afternoon, I went into the room as Michael was getting prepared, and he seemed a bit hungover. I mean, I'm not an expert, and I don't drink, so I've never been hungover. So it's just an observation.
Well, my hunch is in 30 years in the music industry, you may have seen
Drunk
somebody
people
hungover at some point. No?
Actually, no.
How about drunk people?
Yes.
Okay. Was Mr. Jackson drunk?
No. Not to the best of my knowledge, no.
Okay. Was he despondent?
No.
Did you yell at him?
At some point during the afternoon, the word yell might be a little bit extreme, and I might have used it to describe it, but at one point it was taking so long, we were waiting for him to get ready, and there was one item of clothing that he was waiting for, and time was ticking away, and I got a little louder, a little more affirmative than I had been in dealing with him up to then.
Did you yell at him?
I raised my voice. I was a little firm.
You were a little firm?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was there anything that you saw that afternoon before getting to the press conference that scared you? In terms of Mr. Jackson's condition, behavior?
Yeah, well, the word scary, in looking back at it, probably is an overreaction to what was going on that afternoon, the fact that we were late for the press conference. And yeah, when you have a press conference to announce the comeback of the greatest star in the world, and he's running 2 hours late, and he appeared to be somewhat hungover. Yeah, I would say, I'm not sure scary, looking back, if I'd use the word scary or really more concerned.
And did you conclude, based on what you saw, that Mr. Jackson was an emotionally paralyzed mess?
That was a description I used to describe what I encountered, what my observation was.
You know what I'm talking about,
yes.
Right? You sent an email to Mr. Leiweke.
Yes.
Would you agree with me, sir, that you described Mr. Jackson in Exhibit 7 as an emotionally paralyzed mess?
That is correct.
And you said, this is the scariest thing I've ever seen.
That's what I wrote at the time.
Okay. And Mr. Leiweke is, I'm sorry, I'm mispronouncing names. Is it Leiweke?
Leiweke.
Okay, I'm not mispronouncing names. He was your boss. Is that?
He was my direct report.
Direct report.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And you sent this to him for a reason, I take it?
Because to keep him informed of what was going on.
You wanted to be honest with your boss, your direct report, as to what was happening in London.
I wanted him to understand what was going on at the time.
All right. Direct report was your word, was it not?
Correct.
And so you sent him this email.
That is correct.
And you started off on March 5th, at the bottom. What did you write to Mr. Leiweke?
What it says here.
Could you read it?
MJ is locked in his room, drunk and despondent. Tomei and I are trying to sober him up and get him to the press conference with his hairdresser makeup artist.
And then Mr. Leiweke responds, "Are you kidding me?"
Correct.
And then you responded with the longer entry there.
Correct.
And you wrote, "I screamed at him so loud the walls are shaking."
Yes, that was an exaggeration, but I did raise my voice.
All right. And was it also an exaggeration when you wrote, "This is the scariest thing I've ever seen"?
For the size and the scope of what was going on, it was one of the most concerning things. I don't know if, looking back at it, if I would have said the scariest, having been in this business as long as I have.
Okay. Was that an exaggeration?
A little bit.
And was it an exaggeration also that he is an emotionally paralyzed mess?
That's what I felt at the time.
When Mr. Gongaware replied to your email, here, Exhibit 8, up at the top of the page.
Top, okay.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is before the London press conference, right?
This is February 27th, yes.
The London press conference is March 5.
Right.
Mr. Gongaware wrote, "Meanwhile, our play here is to not back off. We are holding all the risk. If MJ won't approve it, we go without his approval." You see that?
Correct.
Did you agree with that tactic?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure what he was referring to.
What do you believe he was referring to?
That Michael was trying to back out of the press. According to this, that he wasn't going to get on the plane and go to London to do the press conference.
And
that had been scheduled.
And Paul recommended going ahead with the press conference and putting the tickets on sale, because once we go on sale, which we have the right to do, he is locked. He has no choice. He has to do it, right?
That's what he wrote.
Okay. Did you agree with that?
No.
Did you ever respond to this email saying that you disagreed with it?
Not that I remember.
Did you ever tell anybody that you scraped Mr. Jackson off the floor in his hotel room in London before the press conference?
Not to my knowledge.
Actually, I'm sorry. When you say not to my knowledge, is it your testimony that you don't remember ever saying that, or is it your testimony that you did not say that?
I don't remember ever saying that.
Okay, so it may have happened, it may not have happened, you're not sure.
I'm not sure.
Remember there being a board of directors meeting of AEG that you participated in late May 2009?
It's possible. I don't remember.
You don't have any recollection of participating in a board meeting at AEG in late May 2009?
It's very possible. I do not remember.
I'm simply asking whether you have any memory at all of being at a board of directors meeting for AEG in late May 2009.
No.
Did you read the Jackson AEG live contract in January 2009?
No.
You never read that one?
No. I read a summary of it, but I didn't read the whole contract.
Okay. What did you ask Dr. Murray about his relationship with Mr. Jackson? If anything.
I didn't ask anything.
What did you ask Dr. Murray, if anything, as to what his medical specialty was?
I didn't.
What information did you have about Dr. Murray's past medical treatment of Mr. Jackson?
I did not have any knowledge at that point. I was not even involved in anything to do with the doctor at that point.
Okay, I'm just asking what, if anything, came up at that particular meeting.
No, it's just really Michael's overall health and stamina, and what Dr. Murray was going to travel with him to London.
And that came up during the meeting at, you said late May or early June?
Correct.
All right, Mr. Phillips, you've got in front of you Exhibit 22. Do you see that?
Yes.
And you had a chance to read that while we were
Not yet.
during the break?
No.
Okay.
I'm reading it now.
Okay. Were you getting reports as of June 14, 2009, that Mr. Jackson was not performing well at rehearsals?
No, I just, the email you've given me was the first time I was told that.
Your first meeting with Dr. Murray, was that before June 14th, 2009?
Yes.
All right. And so that was, at that time, you had no information about rehearsals, Mr. Jackson not performing well at rehearsals?
No, not to the best of my knowledge, no.
Okay. When Mr. Ortega writes here, he is not in great physical shape. I believe he's hurting. He has been slow at grabbing hold of the work. As of June 15, 2009, did you get that same information?
I don't remember receiving this email.
Well, let me ask you about the language there that Mr. Gongaware wrote on June 14th at 4:11. Frank and I have discussed it already and have requested a face-to-face meeting with the doctor, hopefully Monday. That would be June 15th, I think, if we do the calendar calculations. We want to remind him that it is AEG, not MJ, who is paying his salary. We want him to understand what is expected of him. You see that?
I see it, yes.
All right. Does this withdrawn? Did you participate in a meeting with Dr. Murray after June 14th, 2009, but before the meeting at the Forum the next weekend?
I don't remember.
So you may have had a meeting. You may have also participated in a meeting with Dr. Murray around June 15th.
I may have. I don't remember.
Okay. Did Mr. Gongaware ever communicate to you that we want to remind Dr. Murray that it is AEG, not MJ, who is paying his salary?
No.
Did Mr. Gongaware ever communicate with you, we want him to understand what is expected of him?
No.
Do you understand what Mr. Gongaware meant by that?
No.
Did you withdrawn? You don't ever. You never asked Mr. Gongaware what he meant by what is expected of Dr. Murray?
He never. No.
No. All right. Now, and you don't remember ever getting this particular email?
No.
Is that reading? So, withdrawn. Sitting here right now, is that the first time you've read this language from Mr. Gongaware? saying that we want to remind Murray that it is AEG, not MJ, who's paying his salary?
Yes.
And the first time you've read, we want him to understand what is expected of him, Dr. Murray? First time is reading that here today?
Yes.
All right. Then would you tell me then what Exhibit 23 is, which appears to be an email that you received forwarding the email that Exhibit 22 that we've just been talking about?
Oh, from... Is this the same email?
Does it look like
Same
it?
email trail?
Looks like it, doesn't it?
It appears to be.
And it looks like Mr. Gongaware forwarded it to you and to Mr. DeLeo at 2:33 in the morning on June 15th, right?
Yeah, I just don't remember receiving it.
Okay. And so did you ever ask Mr. Gongaware what he meant when he wrote, we want to remind him that is AEG, not MJ, who's paying his salary?
No.
Did you ever admonish or correct Mr. Gongaware to say that that's not accurate?
No. Because I don't remember seeing it in the first place.
Okay. There's no question that Mr. Withdrawn, this document, Exhibit 23, was produced to us by AEG live in this litigation. And that was your email address, was it not?
That is correct.
On June 15, 2009, right?
Correct.
You have no reason to dispute that this document was sent to you?
No, I just don't remember
Okay.
seeing it.
Were you beginning to develop a concern about Mr. Jackson's commitment to the tour as of June 15, 2009?
No.
Well, so I take it you first learned about there being a problem at rehearsal on the 19th when you opened up your email after sunrise on June 20th. Is that right?
That is correct.
Did you talk to Dr. Murray before the meeting?
I vaguely remember having a telephone conversation with him that morning
And what was the content of that conversation?
about Kenny, the content of Kenny's email, and having a meeting to discuss it.
Okay. So was it just tell me everything you can remember about the meeting, or the withdrawn. Tell me everything you can remember about the phone call. Was it just to schedule the meeting, or was there information conveyed by you to him and him to you?
It was really to schedule the meeting. You know, we didn't get into an in-depth discussion about what the issues in the email were.
Okay, so how long did that phone call last, approximately?
3 minutes.
Okay. Because all you were trying to do was, hey, we need to set up the meeting to figure out what the problem is.
To the best of my knowledge, my conversation with Dr. Murray was to schedule the meeting.
Tell me everything you can remember about the phone call. Was it just to schedule the meeting, or was there information conveyed by you to him and him to you?
It was really to schedule the meeting. You know, we didn't get into an in-depth discussion about what the issues in the email were.
Okay, so how long did that phone call last, approximately?
3 minutes.
Okay. So do you remember Dr. Murray leaving you a message on the evening of June 18th?
No,
Did you talk to Dr. Murray on the evening of June 18th?
I don't remember. That's
Right.
my home number.
That's your home number? Mm-hmm. Okay. So that's the fourth call from the top on that page, right?
Correct.
And that reflects, if you run over to the right side of that, that reflects a call at approximately noon from Dr. Murray to you,
Correct.
and that's consistent with your recollection.
Correct.
And the length of time that call lasted, according to the records, is 1,549 seconds. Do you see that?
Yes,
So it's about 25 minutes.
I guess.
That's not consistent with your recollection of how long this call lasted.
It didn't feel like it was that long based on my memory.
Fair to say that after looking at this document that you did more in that conversation than schedule a meeting with Dr. Murray?
I would say so.
And in fact, having looked at this now, you know that you talked to Dr. Murray for 25 minutes on June 20th before the meeting, correct?
That's what it says here.
And you've got no reason to dispute that, do you?
No.
Tell me what else you talked to Dr. Murray about during that 25-minute period.
I don't remember. He might have done most of the talking. I just don't remember.
Okay.
No.
Do you remember him doing most of the talking?
I don't remember. I remember the meeting. I don't remember the conversation.
Do you remember raising with him any issues relating to substance dependence?
No.
And do you remember giving him any further information about what Mr. Jackson's physical condition was?
No.
You remember him telling you anything more about Mr. Jackson's physical condition?
I just don't remember the phone call.
Did you say to Dr. Murray that you've got to get Mr. Jackson healthy so he's able to do these tours?
I don't remember.
You remember saying to Dr. Murray that you need to do something to make sure that Mr. Jackson doesn't cancel?
I honestly don't remember.
Okay. So other than just scheduling the meeting, you have no recollection of anything else that happened in that 25-minute phone call?
No.
No, I'm correct? You have no recollection?
I have no recollection.
Tell me what else you talked to Dr. Murray about during that 25-minute period.
I don't remember. He might have done most of the talking. I just don't remember.
Okay. Do you remember him doing most of the talking?
I don't remember. I remember the meeting. I don't remember the conversation.
And what happened at that meeting?
At that meeting, there was Kenny Ortega was on one couch. There were two couches in the living room in a little settee. Dr. Murray and I were on one. Kenny Ortega was on the other, and Michael Jackson was on the settee. And in the meeting, Kenny pretty much reiterated what he wrote in his email about Michael's physical condition, his mental state, mostly his mental state.
What did he say?
That basically what he said in the email, that he was concerned that Michael wasn't focused, wasn't taking this seriously enough, and that he was concerned whether he was getting enough food, enough sleep, things like that.
Did Dr. Murray offer an explanation as to why Mr. Jackson's condition was so poor the night before?
He did. I don't remember what it was, but he did. And in doing so, he pretty much assured us that Michael was fine. You know, he wasn't sure why he wasn't well that night, but that he was fine. That he was fine physically, and that he admonished Kenny for being an amateur physician, or something to that effect.
Okay. So, all right. And how did Mr. Ortega respond to that?
Kenny and he kind of were a little bit combative in the meeting. I mean, Kenny said, well, why isn't he at rehearsals more? Why isn't he, focusing on getting his performance done, giving me what I need from him in terms of putting the rest of the show together, because the rest of the show keys off of him. So it's very hard for us to finish the production without Michael's attendance. And that was kind of the conversation that went back and forth. And Dr. Murray was very assured that Michael's health was fine.
Okay. And did either you or Mr. Gongaware ask Dr. Murray what Michael Jackson's physical problem had been the night before? I'm sorry, Mr. Ortega.
I don't remember what he asked about that. I don't remember the exact question.
I want to go back to the first page of Exhibit 28, the one you have in your hand.
Right.
Starts at the bottom with an email from Hoogdal to Gongaware and yourself, correct?
Yes.
And that one is sent on June 19, the day before, at 10:14 at night, right?
Correct.
And you just didn't remember getting this email?
From John Hoogdal,
Right.
that email
Right.
of this chain. I vaguely remember it.
Okay. Did you have any reason to doubt what he was saying in this email at the time you read it?
No.
And you don't remember how you reacted to this email?
I don't remember, because I think this was part of the series of emails that precipitated the meeting at the house.
Okay, but my question was, do you recall how you reacted when you read this email?
No.
Then, if you look at it temporally, the next one is Kenny responding to your 10:47 email at 2:04 in the morning that we've talked about already, Exhibit 24, right?
Correct.
And where at least Ortega writes, everything in me says he should be psychologically evaluated. Did you agree with that?
Do I agree that he sent it?
No, well, you already said that he sent it, but do you agree with what Mr. Ortega wrote?
I'm not a doctor.
Did you agree at the time?
I do not recall.
When you now, if you look again down at the bottom, June 20th at 6:58 a.m., you wrote back to Ortega responding to the 204 email, right?
Where? What?
Look at the very bottom of the second page.
Yes.
Okay? You wrote back to Ortega, I will call you when I figure this out, right?
Correct.
You wrote on the third page, later in that email, I am stymied on who to bring in as a therapist and how they can get through to him in such a short time, right?
Correct.
What kind of therapist?
Whatever Kenny was asking for.
He was asking for a psychological evaluation, right?
Based on whatever Kenny was asking for, that was, and here he said strong therapist was his language.
Yeah, and you understood that to be a psychological therapist, a mental health counselor.
I assume. I don't remember. But I was responding to that email.
And then Mr. Ortega's response to you at 1:20 that day, June 20th, was that he was at home waiting for your call or instructions. So it's fair to say that the meeting had to happen sometime after 1:20.
Yes.
All right. And at least Mr. Ortega wrote, I honestly don't think he is ready for this based on his continued physical weakening and deepening emotional state, right?
Correct.
And when he wrote there about that this is reminiscent of what Karen, Bush, Travis, and I remembered just before he fainted, causing the HBO concerts to be canceled, did you understand what he meant?
No.
Did you ask him?
No.
When Mr. Ortega wrote, I think the very best thing we can do is get a top psychiatrist in to evaluate him ASAP. That's at least what Ortega was asking.
Correct.
Was there any discussion at all about what Dr. Murray's qualifications were in the area of psychiatry or psychology?
No.
And you forwarded that email then to Mr. Lywicki, right?
That is correct.
And you wrote can you tell me what you wrote to Mr. Lywicki?
I wrote, Tim and I are going to see him tomorrow. However, I'm not sure what the problem is, chemical or physiological.
All right. Now, chemical, meaning substance abuse?
I don't remember what I meant by chemical, at the time. Because the reason I say it's because when you say substance abuse, I don't know if it was prescription medication he was taking or something else. I don't know.
Okay. You wrote to Mr. Lywicki, I'm not sure what the problem is, chemical or physiological, right?
Because of the coldness of him shaking.
Yeah, you thought it might have something to do with drugs, right?
No, I didn't.
No?
No, he could have been sick. He could have had the flu. He could have been taking some. I had no idea.
Why don't you tell me what you meant by chemical, Mr.
Thank
Phillips?
you. He could have been taking prescription medication. He could have had a reaction to that. I didn't know because I wasn't privy to what Michael's regimen was at the house.
You could have been abusing drugs too, right?
I don't know.
Cross your mind?
No.
Never crossed your mind?
No.
And so when you wrote here chemical or physiological, you thought that might have been a doctor appropriately prescribing medications to him that was causing Mr. Jackson's condition to be the way it was that evening.
It could have been a reaction to that because all of my interaction with Michael, other than the one meeting,
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
because of all my interaction with Michael, other than that one meeting where he was a little vacant after he saw Dr. Klein, which I testified to, he was spot on and totally coherent, and he looked very healthy.
Now, you wrote also the chemical or physiological. I think you spelled physiological. Did you mean physiological or psychological?
I don't remember.
And physiological to you means, I think we said this earlier, it means physical?
That's what I thought.
Okay.
That's what I would have thought.
And then your response to Mr. Gongaware, copied to Mr. Lywicki and Bugsy, was what?
He is not a psychiatrist, so I'm not sure how effective he can be at this point. Obviously, getting him there is not an issue. It is much deeper.
All right, Murray is not a psychiatrist?
or whoever the physician, I just don't remember who I was referring to. Most likely Murray.
Right. And there was no other physician that you were going to bring to this meeting, was there?
No.
And when you wrote that Murray is not a psychiatrist, you knew that to be the case, right?
Yeah, I knew he wasn't a psychiatrist.
And when you wrote, I'm not sure how effective he can be at this point, the reason you wrote that is because you thought the problem was psychological.
Based on Kenny's email.
Right.
I was responding to Kenny's email because I was not there.
All right. And you said that the getting him there is not the issue. Him as Jackson or him as Murray?
Murray. Or the doctor.
Okay. Most likely Murray.
Right.
You never asked another doctor to come and see Mr.
No.
Jackson, did you?
As I repeated, no.
Okay. It is much deeper. What did you mean by that, sir?
Based on Kenny's email, that it may not be a physical problem, it could be a psychological problem.
And what did you do to resolve that
We had the meeting at the house.
with Dr. Murray,
Correct.
who was not a psychiatrist?
Correct.
How was it left? June 20th?
It was left that Michael was going to come to rehearsal on Tuesday, which I believe was the 23rd of June.
And why not Monday?
I don't know if Kenny was. I think Kenny had to do something. I'm not 100% sure why it wasn't Monday, but there was a reason it was starting up on Tuesday.
Was it discussed that Michael would be taking a couple of days off?
No.
Mr. Phillips, is this the only record of what happened at the meeting on June 20th with Dr. Murray that you're familiar with?
I don't know.
Do you have any recollection of anything other than this?
I don't know.
I'm just asking you to have a recollection. Sitting here right now, do you
And I'm
remember?
telling you, I don't have a recollection. I don't know.
Did you have any communications with Mr. Lywicki regarding what happened at the June 20th meeting?
Not that I remember.
Did you send him any emails?
Not that I remember.
You forwarded the Ortega email of June 20 at 1:48 p.m. to Mr. Lywicki, right?
Correct?
And who's Kasudi at earthlink.net?
I have no idea.
Somebody that in your computer, right?
Yes.
And Mr. DeLeo, right?
Correct.
And is that Lywicki's personal account? What is that email
Yeah,
address?
I'm not sure.
Why didn't you use the AEG email address?
I have no idea.
Now, what did you write to Mr. Lywicki, and Mr. DeLeo and the other two and the other person?
I said this guy's really starting to concern me. Read his email, my response. Dr. Murray and I are meeting with MJ at 4 p.m. today at the Forum.
Now, when you say this guy is really starting to concern me, that was Mr. Ortega?
I think so. I'm not 100% sure.
What were you concerned about?
I'm not sure the context of the email I sent, what I was referring to.
I'm sorry, you're not sure of the context?
I'm not sure of when I'm saying this guy is really starting to concern me, if I was talking about Kenny. It could be about Kenny.
I'm sorry?
It could be referring to Kenny Ortega.
Right. And isn't it likely referring to him, given that the next sentence is read his email and my response?
Probably.
Okay. And what was it? What concerned you about Mr. Ortega's email to you?
Yeah, I don't remember what it was.
All right. Well, you wrote, this guy, probably Ortega, is starting to concern me, right?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Yes. And you forwarded Mr. Lywicki Ortega's email.
Correct.
And you don't remember what you were concerned about.
I don't remember. Whatever it is, I'm reading it now. So.
Okay. Did you write this email? Up at the top, the first entry, August 18.
Well, it says I did.
Have any reason to doubt that?
Okay, I don't remember it. That's the only reason.
Who's Michael Roth?
Michael Roth is the head of publicity, VP of publicity for AG.
So Murray did some kind of an interview. Is that the way you read this?
Have you had a chance to read this yet?
No.
Okay, why don't you read the things
Okay.
before you start answering the
Okay.
questions?
Take your time. Can you read me out loud what you wrote to Michael Roth on August 18th, 2009 at 7:24?
I wonder why now. I think I know what MJ died of, and this would exonerate Conrad.
Conrad Murray.
Correct.
What did you know would exonerate Conrad Murray?
I don't remember.
No recollection at all.
No.
Did anybody ever ask you what you knew that would exonerate Conrad Murray?
No.
Did you ever tell the police that you had information that would exonerate Conrad Murray?
No.
Did you ever tell the LA district attorney what information you had that would exonerate Conrad Murray?
No.
Did you ever tell his attorney what information, Murray's attorney, what information you had that would exonerate Conrad Murray?
No.
Okay, Mr. Kane was Mr. Jackson's business manager eventually, is that correct?
That is correct.
And he sends you an email on June 23 at 11:22 asking on the list of doctors that will help get up from today to the opening night. Where does Arnold Klein stand on the list?
Correct.
Probably up was us. Should have been us.
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And what was your response?
He scares us to death because he's shooting him up with something.
Why did he scare you to death?
I don't remember why I used that terminology. It's because he was treating Michael, and Dr. Murray was Michael's primary care physician, and I don't think Dr. Murray knew. I'm speculating, but I didn't think Dr. Murray knew what treatments Dr. Klein was giving to Michael.
Well, you told Dr. Murray at the first meeting in June that Michael was seeing Dr. Klein,
Yes.
right?
Correct.
And did you have reason to believe that Dr. Murray didn't follow through with that information? One way or the other?
I had no knowledge one way or another.
Well, you wrote because Dr. Klein is shooting him up with something. How'd you learn that?
From Michael Caine.
From Michael Caine. Michael Caine told you that Dr. Klein was shooting Michael Jackson up with something?
No, Michael Caine told me that he had a bill for $48,000, and it was pages of treatments, Ristylane, all of this, Botox, Ristylane, and then something called DM, or IM. Something like that, I don't remember.
DM as in Demerol?
Or I don't think it was DM, I think it was IM.
Well, Mr. Caine wrote to you, I have the details of what he is doing, right? Did he send you Mr. Jackson's medical records relating to Dr. Klein?
No.
Did he send you a list of, what did he tell you about what?
He just told me he had an invoice for $48,000. That's all he told me.
Well, your email back to Mr. Caine was, we should discuss later today, right?
Correct.
Did you do that?
I don't remember having that conversation with him.
Well, where was the conversation where you got the information about the $48,000 bill and the list of items that were being used?
It would have been somewhere around this time. I'm not sure if it was on the phone or if it was at the Staples Center.
And why you used the phrase, he scares us to death, because he is shooting him up with something. What was it that Dr. Klein was shooting him up with that scared you to death?
I don't know. That's what scared me. I had no idea.
So, what's the connection, I'm sorry, between being scared and shooting him up with something, if you didn't know it was being used?
Because there were a lot of there were a lot of bills, invoices for injections called IM on this invoice, and I had no idea what that was.
It could have been DM.
It was IM.
All right. Your first answer was it was DM. Do you remember that?
Yeah, but that's not what it was.
You made a mistake.
Yes.
Exhibit 68 seems to be Mr. Nanula forwarding you an article in the Sunday Independent from December 7, 2008. You see that?
I see it. I don't remember reading it.
There's on the page that ends 6562, there's a statement, Jackson's productivity could very well be suffering due to his alleged relationship with alcohol and prescription medication. You see that?
Yeah, I see the paragraph.
Okay, somebody wrote that anyway, right?
Obviously, I'm
And-
reading it.
Yeah, and you read it back at the time in 2008, didn't you?
I don't remember reading this article at all.
Okay. You wouldn't,
And I wouldn't have much credence in anything in the English press.
okay. When, you know who Diane Diamond is, don't you?
I have no idea who she is.
At least what she is quoted as saying he's had problems with alcohol and painkillers for years. You saw that, right?
No?
You see it now.
I see it now. I didn't see it then.
You didn't see it then?
No.
Okay, you shook your head no.
No.
Would you agree with me, Mr. Phillips, that you took this article and you forwarded it to Dr. Tomei about a week later?
It's very possible.
Well, it's more than possible, isn't it? That's what it says, right?
That there's an email forward from me, Tim, yes.
Right. And this is produced by AEG Live in this litigation. You see that down at the bottom?
Yes.
And your email to Dr. Tomei forwarding this story was, Doc, have you read these stories? Question mark, this reporter did a lot of research, right? That's what you wrote.
Correct.
Fair to say that you probably read this article in order for you to write that.
Or was told that by Richard Nanula. I don't remember.
Okay. Did you talk to Mr. Nanula about the assertion in this article that Mr. Jackson had problems with painkillers?
I don't remember.
What did you do after you read the article in Exhibit 69 to determine whether Jackson had problems with alcohol or painkillers at the time?
I don't remember reading it.
Well, you agree, though, that you said to Dr. Tomei, have you seen these articles? This reporter did a lot of research, right?
Correct. It was a long article. There was a lot of paragraphs. So.
Right. Did you ever ask Dr. Tomei, what about this claim that Jackson has problems with alcohol and painkillers?
No.
Did you do anything between the time you received this article on December 8, 2008, to the time of Mr. Jackson's death to determine whether he had a problem with alcohol or painkillers?
No.
Or any other kind of narcotics or prescription drugs or just prescription drugs? I'll leave it at that.
No, I was strictly his promoter.
Okay. You never asked Dr. Murray about that?
No.
Who's Dave Loeffler worked for?
He's a third-party contractor who worked for Phillips Digital Media.
What was he doing at this meeting?
I'm not 100% sure why he was included in this meeting.
Well, what's your best recollection of why he was included?
I don't know.
And as we sit here today, do you have an understanding as what you meant by chemical in this email?
Yes, I do. On reflection, I meant chemical, meaning did he have a chemical imbalance, which would then cause depression, things like that. I'm not a doctor. It was just a general term I used. But it was geared more towards psychological aspects.
And I believe this was already asked by Mr. Blessing, so I apologize because it would be asked and answered. But was there ever a time in June of 2009, up until the point of Mr. Jackson's passing, where you had any worry that perhaps Mr. Jackson was misusing drugs?
No.
And during that, Mr. Bloss asked you if you believe that the point of your conversation was principally to arrange for to arrange for Dr. Murray to attend a meeting later that day. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And you had said that was correct. You believe that was the principal purpose, correct?
When I was answering the question, yes.
And as we sit here today, do you believe that was the only purpose of, was that the only thing discussed in that telephone conversation?
No.
Were there other things as you sit here today you can recall discussing in that telephone conversation?
Yes.
And what was that?
Kenny's email, which necessitated the meeting, and Dr. Murray telling me that Kenny is crazy, were his words. I don't know why he's writing this to you. Michael will be fine, and it would be much worse if this tour were not to go ahead for Michael than if the tour would have happened.
Does that refresh your recollection as to whether you ever had any discussion as to whether Dr. Murray was a psychiatrist?
No.
This doesn't refresh your recollection?
But whether I ever had a discussion whether he was a no, I mean, I knew he wasn't a psychiatrist. I knew he was a practicing doctor of another specialty.
Okay. What specialty did you know that Dr. Murray had?
I knew he had heart clinics. He was a heart specialist.
And did you know what type of cardiologist he was at any point?
No.
Did you know what field he practiced in at any point within cardiology?
No, I never had that discussion with him.
All right. And you, I take it, met, and don't tell me what you talked about, but I take it you met with Mr. Putnam in the break between the time I finished and the time he started, right?
Yes.
Can you identify any employee of AEG or AEG Live or independent contractor for AEG Live with whom you had a conversation about Dr. Murray's contract prior to June 25, 2009?
No, I don't remember. I don't remember who I might have spoken to.
Okay. You have no information about what
No.
the contract or proposed contract at all?
It wasn't my responsibility.
And you have no information
Right.
about it, right?
Correct.
Okay. Who were Phillips?
Just to clarify my answer, I don't remember if I knew that there was an assigned contract before Michael passed away or after. That's the only thing I don't know.